Big D Entertainment, in association with Dipsy Doodle Productions, presents The Dave Holly Hour. Brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, Excel Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. The Dave Holly Hour features Sioux Empire arts and entertainment conversations. A true lover of arts, entertainment, good food, and fun times, including an occasional Jack Daniels. Okay, so a few Jack Daniels. Here he is, Dave Holly.
Here we are, 5 years later, and now 250 episodes. Give yourselves a hand. Who'da thunk it? Still shake my head as to the longevity of this show, that it's become my little Energizer Bunny. You know, it just keeps going and going and going. And with all the amazing talent in the Sioux Empire that I haven't had a chance to have a conversation with, as a gift to myself, I didn't schedule any conversations for this week. I did, however, get two local television celebrities to co-host for me today. We'll just have to see who they chose for a guest. But first, let's pop the cork on this bubbly little show. Time to grab your favorite beverage, lift it high, and toast it to being Thursday, a.k.a. Weekend Eve.
Hey, the weekend isn't around the corner, it's here!
So long, hump day in your frumpy way. We say hello to Thursdays with opening nights. The weekend is near and we can see the bright lights. Yes, Thursday, you're so hearty, we can't wait for Friday, so a day early, we start the party. Whatever you're drinking and whatever you're drinking it out of might very well be determined by where and when you happen to be listening. My choice, as per usual, a Jasper Newton. That's Jack Daniels, Diet Coke with lime. And for you, could be a cup of coffee, might be a spot of tea, a glass of milk, a bottle of water, a mug of beer, a cocktail, a glass of wine, maybe a flute of champagne. Regardless, lift it high and toast to yourself. I truly appreciate each of you for your interest in arts and entertainment. This journey has provided me with lots of laughter as well as other emotions. Mostly, it's provided me great friendships and acquaintances. I am blessed to have had over 350 individual guests, over 600 total guest appearances, a great majority of whom I didn't know 5 years ago, but are now considered friends, family, framly. So cheers to each of you. Never underestimate your worth. Speaking of cheers, a word that ironically rhymes with beers. Say cheers with a beer or your favorite cocktail at Chasers, West 12th Street and Ellis Road. Make sure you grab some food while you're there. Join us Monday nights at 7 for Dave Holly Hour Trivia at Chasers. This coming Monday, October 14th, our theme will be Leave Me Alone. Come join us. Honorable mention. What over the past week made Dave laugh, guffaw, chuckle, chortle, giggle, simply smile, or maybe even shed a tear of joy, or maybe yell bravo? Jess Johansson was one of the leads in the Premier Playhouse's production of Freaky Friday the Musical. She's great regardless. To start the second half, she starts in on a song. The backtrack to it had a little glitch. So then she starts to kind of hum it as the track is starting to get, sorry for the pun, back on track. And you can tell that she's maybe not sure where she's going to jump in. Maybe she doesn't know the lyric to start. And she just very calmly breaks the fourth wall, looks at the audience and says, "So how's your night going?" And then she says, "And I've got this to say, and I'm going to sing about it in a minute." And then she, of course, sings it and nails it. And that woman has such an amazing voice. an amazing personality. If you have never seen Jess Johansson on stage, you find her in something, go see it. She is a remarkable singer, remarkable actress, and even a better human being. Love the lady. All right. Coming up in just a moment. Oh, by the way, that was the Save of Saves on stage. Got the loudest applause of all time. Everybody loves her. All right. Now I can say, coming up in just a moment, we learn who our special guest hosts are and the identity of their guest on the Dave Holly Hour. Serendipity Studio in downtown Sioux Falls has a great selection of art from local and regional artists. Check out their latest rotational exhibit, Serendipity Studio, in the historic Shriver Square building, downtown Sioux Falls.
Check out the new Ceramic Studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics, inside Oscar's Mini Storage. Bisque, studio time, painting parties, and finished items are available. Visit TJS Ceramic Studio in Sioux Falls today.
Are you an artist? Need some funding to further your art? There's a great opportunity for you through a Sioux Falls Arts Council program. The Artist Microgrant program gives away several microgrants to local artists, no matter what art discipline you're in. Unlike more traditional grants, a microgrant is very easy to apply for. Go to artssiouxfalls.org. If you haven't done so yet, create a listing on the Artist Directory, which is beneficial in its own way. Then go to the Artist Microgrants page and apply online. The process is simple. Find out more about the Sioux Falls Arts Council as well online at artssiouxfalls.org.
Funny, engaging, connected. He's the entertainment reporter for Sioux Falls. Here's Dave Holly.
It's always a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment. Wait, I am not Dave Holly. I am Baylee Peterson.
And I'm Lexie Merley joining her today.
And we are going to be interviewing Dave Holly.
Yeah, we did
Hello,
the
Dave.
Oh,
switcheroo.
my.
The switcheroo on
Yes,
ya.
it is. I'm doing quite well, thank you.
Yeah, yes.
It's a big day.
Yeah, talk
is a
about
very
that.
big day.
Yes,
Why
it
it's a
is
big
the
day.
5th anniversary of the show today.
Wow.
And this is episode number 250.
Wow.
Yeah.
So exciting. How does that feel?
Great.
Great.
Considering when I started it, I didn't know. I pledged. I shouldn't say I pledged. I actually told people, I said, I wish to make it a weekly thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I had just gotten through a bunch of health issues and so forth. So I was like honest and said, but I know what life can throw at me now.
Right.
You know, I've had to go through things like that. And so I'm not going to promise in that regard, but I do. My hope is to make it a weekly thing. My wife anticipated 3 episodes.
Well, look at you now.
Wow. Yeah.
250
Wow.
later.
Yes,
Yes.
And
we're
it
here.
has stayed a weekly thing, hasn't it?
Yes, I take
Consistent,
2
right?
weeks off each year, and those would be the last 2 weekends of last 2 Thursdays of the year,
Okay.
because holiday time and things
Oh,
are
yeah.
jam-packed, and I also happen to have a character that's kind of busy around Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So-
I can't imagine
There
what
you
character
go.
that would be.
Couldn't
Oh,
take
my.
a guess at all. The elf? One of the elves?
Yes, you got it.
One of
The
those,
right
yeah.
jolly old one.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, we have had you on Dakota News Now many a time.
Yes.
I've met you a few times, and I'm
Yep.
always just so interested, about you. Who is the man behind Dave Holly Hour?
Oh, my
And,
goodness.
like,
Wow.
who were you as a child?
Okay.
How did you get into this,
Right.
business?
I was a ham as a child.
Really?
Okay.
Very much so. You know that jolly old elf thing?
Uh-huh.
There is a Polaroid picture around here somewhere of me at about age 7
Okay.
wearing red pajamas, and I had taken Elmer's glue and glued cotton balls
Oh,
on my face and chin.
Oh, wow.
My dad had this little cardboard fireplace that we had in the basement. That was long before our basement was ever finished. And I came out from that and did the Santa Claus bit. And I was huge into Christmas because my birthday is just 10 days before it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I've always loved that. And I thought for the first part, when I was a freshman in high school, I got into photography.
Okay.
And just absolutely loved it. And that was back in the days of darkrooms.
Yeah.
And I had my own
suppose.
darkroom at the age of 15.
Wow.
And as a freshman in high school, I was the school photographer above all the other upper class photographers and so forth.
Wow.
And just always thought that was going to be it. And then sophomore year rolls around, and I grew up in that metropolitan area of Rock Rapids, Iowa. You know, at that time, it was trying really hard. We want to be like 3,000 people. Never got above 2,700 that I'm aware of. And now it barely hangs above 2,000.
Okay.
So at that age, you had an older friend that had a license, and you could go out and drive.
That was a big thing.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
you know, you'd scoop the loop.
Oh, yeah, in Northwest Iowa.
That's
about,
right.
You're
You're an ORAB, aren't you?
I've been scooping the
I
loop
never
since
scooped
I
the
was
loop.
16.
Oh, yeah.
I was
I
the
didn't scoop the
oldest
loop.
one of my friends. I was very popular when I turned 16.
Okay.
I can imagine so. Yep.
Wow.
And so one night I call up a friend. It's about Saturday night, just eating supper, and I call him up and say, "Hey, Clark, you coming into town so we can go ride around?" He goes, "Who is this?" I said, "Well, it's Dave." He says, "Man, you got a great voice. You should think about radio." And then after that, I started doing some of the PA at sporting events and so forth.
Okay.
Eventually, when the local radio station was doing Central Line Sports, I would sit in and just do stats or something, just anything to be getting on the air in any way. And really just enjoyed it. So then I started off, and I went to a small private school for a year and a half. It wasn't my cup of tea, but in the middle of that year and the half part, I did an internship at KSCJ Radio in Sioux City, and met a lot of other interns, and 90% of them were from Southwest Minnesota State.
Huh.
And I had never really heard of it. And I said, "Well, yeah, it's in Marshall."
Yep.
And I knew Marshall wasn't that far away. That was about all I knew. So then one of the weekends when I was home, I ran into my high school counselor and said, "Hey, what do you know about Southwest State University in Marshall, Minnesota?" He says, "Great place." He says, "The only thing is they never sent any reps down here because at that time they did not have reciprocity with Iowa, but so they sent them all to South Dakota."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, man, all right, I still want to go up. So I got the catalog, took a look at it, and said, okay, these classes are much more in line with what
Yes.
I'm hoping to do and planning on doing. And then I went up there and met with the head of the broadcast department and fell in love with the place, and just was so grateful that I then transferred. And it was kind of weird because, you know, a lot of friends would say, "Oh man, you know, you're living on your own when you go up there?" I said, "Yeah, I got a single room." "Oh, but you're not going to meet anybody. It's going to be, you know, horrible. You're going to be so lonesome and everything." And I thought, well, you know, here I was at this little 500 student college for a year and a half, and there's like 3 or 4 people out of that I recall from college. And 2 of them were from the same high school class that I was.
Oh, really? Small world.
There you go.
And so then I get up to Southwest State, and it's a blizzard. And
Of course.
moving
As
in.
is in Minnesota.
Yeah. And here's all these guys getting back from spring break. And coming over to introduce themselves to me. You know, not just sitting around like, "Oh, yeah, we got new guys." So, and so then I walked in, and I met 13 people the first hour.
I was going to say, you're pretty good at talking to people, so
yeah,
I have no...
and it was, and you know, there are some of those that are lifetime friends yet,
There
and
you
keep in
go.
touch with them,
Oh, yeah.
and just so much fun, and so much better of a program for what I was looking for. And then I got a really cool first job out of college. I worked out at KFKA in Greeley, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and at that
Took a jump.
time, yes, and at that time at the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, they hosted Bronco training camp.
Ooh.
So my first year in the summer, I've only been there a year, or only been there a month or two, and I'm interviewing players from the Denver Broncos.
Oh,
It's like,
that's a
this
pretty-
is really, really cool.
That's a pretty big break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then got the full-time job there, and was there for about 2 years. Then I moved back home and went back to the local radio station, and then worked there for about 5+ years. Then got into retail for a little bit and sold clothes.
Okay.
And then left retail and went back to radio and was up in Brookings at KBRK. And then after that, I got a job offer at Kello AM. And that was the radio station that we had toured in advanced speech class when I was a senior.
Okay.
And so it's like, yeah, I've always wanted to work here, and I get the
Probably,
opportunity.
yeah.
And I get hired,
I
and
know
it's
what
a
that's like, yeah.
dream job. And then 5 years later, this company buys Kello AM and all that group that said there would be no changes. And then the first day, 7 of us got fired.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and big names too,
Yeah.
and it was ironic. It's like, okay, and then the Argus, when it was, still
Right.
somewhat of a newspaper, more than 4 pages. They said, they interviewed the new GM and said, well, I thought there weren't going to be any changes. Oh, we just meant in format. We didn't say anything about personnel. Yes, Charlie, we're here. Yeah.
By the way, Charlie's also joining us.
And we love
He's
it.
our mascot, yes.
So
He's
sweet.
a Cava?
Cavachon.
Cavachon.
Yeah,
He is so
so-
little and 4 pounds of just pure energy.
Yes, he is.
And love.
Yep, 4.44 pounds, pure love.
Yes.
And so then, got let go from that. Worked at the other radio building for some part-time stuff, and then got to be full-time for 3 months, and then a recession hits, and I was the first out of a whole bunch of people that eventually got let go out of that. Radio is not as appealing as it used to be because they run on a skeleton crew. So much of it is
Yeah.
either syndicated or voice tracked.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Or
let's
outsourced.
yes,
them too, yeah.
let's pay somebody $20 an hour to go in and work an hour and a half to 2 hours for us every day and put together a 5-hour show in that time. And it's like, okay, so nothing I was really looking to get back into.
Yeah.
And then I was getting ready to have a hip surgery. I was working at a convenience store and was full-time at the convenience store, and that insurance there was going to pay all of $250 for a $52,000 surgery.
Oh.
How generous.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wow, that
and
helps.
somebody said, well, that'll pay for the Tylenol.
Maybe the ride to the hospital.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
And then I was in a play with some good friends that I had done improv comedy with them prior, and I show up and I've got a cane, and it's not a prop. It's useful. And Ryan Fossum says, what's going on? I tell him the whole story. I said, yeah. I said, it's a bone on bone, and it just hurts like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Every step does. He says, how would you like great benefits that start right away? I said, okay, well, what? He says, Citibank. And he had just been hired about a month beforehand. And so he got a nice little spiff by hiring me. And so I get there, and it's like, okay, we can do this. And now I've been there 12 years. I did, a year ago, go from 40 hours a week down to 32 because I have plenty going on when it comes to arts and entertainment and everything else I do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, and so it's like, well, the only thing I lost was 20% of my vacation, but I've been there so long, got a couple hundred hours built up.
There you go.
So it's like I still have that. Oh, yeah, and now I have an extra day off during the week.
Right.
And so I'm happy with that arrangement.
Yeah.
Pretty
But
good deal.
I had been there maybe 7 years, and I just kept thinking, man, I'm, because when you're in a call center, you don't have the most pleasant guests.
I'd assume so.
And it's like, I miss having great conversations with people.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd been hearing about podcasts and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I knew a little bit about them, but I didn't know what it fully engulfed. So I started to think, okay, I'm going to do this. And then, we had another grandchild come along and things like that. Just, want to spend time with the grandkids, things along that line. And so I kept putting it off, except I kept working on, like, my logos. And I put together a list of over 50 people that I wanted to have on the show at some point. And then throughout the course of the show, going out and meeting new people, such as you two, and seeing different productions, different companies, bands, all of that. It's like, I got to get them on. Oh, man, I got to get them on. There are still people on that original list I've never had on.
Really?
Yeah. Just because each week it's like, okay, let's redirect this and redirect that. And so I got that first one fine. Well, what happened was then my father passed away.
Oh.
He was an accountant, and he loved numbers. And so I just kept thinking, I knew, at first I thought it was going to be a Monday that I would start the show. And then I was going to do it 9/9. Well, for the first time in like 20 years that time, I, on 9/7, a Saturday night, in Round Lake, Minnesota, DJ'd a wedding dance for a coworker. It's like, you know what? I'm going to spend all day Sunday taking Tylenol.
Yeah. It was a good one.
So
There you
I
go.
don't think we're going to be starting that show then. And I hadn't published anything. I just said, look for it in the fall. And then since my dad, so there was the 9/9. And I go, okay, well, what about 10/10? Oh, look at that. That's a Thursday. And when I worked at Kello AM, Dave Roberts worked at Kello FM. He was one of the other 7 that got... and he and I would always go in early on Thursday mornings, and we'd go to coffee together, and we'd toast it to being Weekend Eve. And so that's one of the things that I use every week in the show is Weekend Eve. So I got out the biggest piece of paper that I could hang on the monitor of my computer, just wrote 10/10. And I finally got it done. It was enough to push me, and we haven't stopped since.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild. And we have so much more to ask you, but looks like we're time to take a break here.
Well, we can do that.
Yeah, we'll take a break, and then we'll come back with a lot more questions.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics inside Oscar's Mini Storage. We have thousands of classic vintage ceramic mold items and several new items too. TJS Ceramics offers classes, special open studio nights, and completed ready-to-purchase items. Bisque studio time or painting parties are available. Visit TJS Ceramics Studio in person today or email tjsceramics@gmail.com for more details.
Dr. Perry Langston and Dr. Corey Tooney know excellence is in you. That's why they provide you with excellent care at XO Chiropractic, improving your overall health in spirit, body, mind, and will. Get results the natural way. Arrange a consultation, 605-332-9235 or xochiros.com. Excellent care for excellent people. XO Chiropractic, located at 4309 South Racket Drive in Sioux Falls.
He's a bit flirtatious, but most of all, fun. Once again, here's Dave Hawley.
And we are back at the Dave Hawley Hour, and I am not your host, Dave Hawley. I am Baylee Peterson.
And once again, I'm Lexie Merley. Earlier, we did hear kind of about how you
Right.
got
Gotcha.
into it, and it sounds like you've really been doing this for forever, it seems like.
Well, when you think about it, back to everything that I did in local radio and so forth, there's always been arts and entertainment that were
Right.
being covered in some fashion. And one of the things that I love about the podcast versus radio is, with the two different companies that we have in town for radio, they each have 8 different stations. And if you've got an event coming up, they'll probably give you like 3 minutes at each station, maybe 5 if you're really lucky. But typically it's going to be Who, what, when, where? How do we get tickets?
Yep.
Oh, and what are you doing in this? Oh, thank you. Who, what, when, where, and how do we get tickets once again?
Yes.
And that's it. I do some timely things, but what I'm interested in, even when it's the timely things, I'm interested in the people.
Yeah.
Because my passion is your passion.
More of that personal connection.
Yes, that's what I want to talk about.
Yep.
I want to not just talk about the play and who's in the cast, unless it's a really cool cast that I can refer to about, they're fantastic, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just been such a great blessing. And because, my first show, Robin Byrne, who's a dual citizen from Britain, he was the just newly elected, executive director of Sioux Empire Community Theater. And then that was they were kind of in a troubled situation at the time. And he came in, righted the ship, rebranded it to the Premier Playhouse, and handed it over then at that point. And so the first interview was him. And we hadn't met except for an email prior to that. We sat down, and the interview went 33 minutes. And prior to that, I was thinking that I was going to do a lot of the same little segments that I had done in my radio show.
Yeah.
And I came back after that just smiling and said, you don't need to do a whole bunch of that. Stick to long-form interviews. And then my dear friend Chad McKenzie, who I worked with at Kellawayam, was also one of those 7. And I had him on, maybe about the 5th or 6th episode or something. And he says, you really got something here.
Yeah.
He says, what it is podcasters are realizing it. Radio hasn't figured it out yet, that people do enjoy in-depth interviews.
I was going to say, I think that's a whole lot of the appeal of your show, even.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's all local people, too.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why people come back week after week.
That's right. And I certainly appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes those $12 a week that I get paid pay off.
Yeah. Does it ever kind of shock you when you get in depth with people and kind of hear some of their background and what people have experienced? Because I always find that interesting.
Yeah. I love this part. That radio job that I had out of college, one day I was waiting for the second session of the Denver Bronco training camp, and they were practicing for 3 days with the then Houston Oilers. And so they had 2 sessions. They had one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Now, our little trailer was 16 foot. It had electricity so we could run our mixers and reels and things like that. But no refrigerator, no air conditioner. We had to bring our own beer and ice.
Oh.
Yeah. And but next to us are all these stations, radio and TV, from Denver and Pueblo and so forth.
The big wigs.
Yes, big wigs, 65-foot land yachts. Well, the one that was right next to us was from KHOW radio, KHOW, and they had a legendary sportscaster, and his name was Tony LaMonica. He was a big man, and I see him walking from the parking lot, and I'm just out there standing because it was cooler air. And no, you don't play with the mixer there, pal. He's very good at turning your cell phone on and off. So Tony waddles up, and he had this voice like this: Tony LaMonica, KO Sports. And he says, "Hey, yeah." He says, "Did you get any tape? To Aegis?" I said, "Yeah, I got Mike Rozier, Warren Moon, and Bum Phillips." He says, "Well, I had to spend the morning covering Terry Bradshaw cutting a Conoco TV commercial. You want to trade tape?" "Well, sure, Mr. LaMonica. I'd love to. So we go over. He opens the door. Waft of air conditioning comes flying out. Leather furniture, full bar. And we sit down and trade the tapes, and he says, do me 2 favors. I said, okay. He says, first one, never be afraid to ask a stupid question, even when you know it's a stupid question, because it might get you the piece of audio of your life. I said, okay. I said, well, what's the other piece of advice? He says, don't try to be me. Don't try to be Larry King or Ted Koppel or anybody. Just be you.
Yeah, solid.
And so the one thing that I do by just being me is I don't hard hit questions. You 2 were guests of mine. Did I ever come out and say, what did you do on the night of April 22nd in 2022?
I wouldn't know. I would not know, Dave.
Yeah, and so I don't do the hard-hitting thing. I always refer to this as a conversation. Yeah. And one of the pieces I've had on it from somebody that has been on board since the beginning is one of my wife's 2 bosses. And after about the 3rd or 4th week, he comes up to me and says, you know what your show is? I said, well, it's Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment Conversations. He says, no, it's like eavesdropping on a great conversation between 2 really interesting people.
Yeah.
And
I would
so
say
it's
it feels like that.
The authenticity.
Yeah.
And so that's been a lot of my MO, as has been my one-time on-air partner in a morning talk show was Susan Malone. Her husband at that time was Mark Antonitis, and he was the general manager of Kello Television. And so one night, the 3 of us go out and go to the, very distinguished downtown Top Hat.
Yes, very distinct.
Dave, I just went to Top Hat not long ago, and
despite,
I love it.
Yeah,
That's all I'm going to say.
Despite the ban on cigarettes inside, you can still get high on nicotine walking into that place, can't you?
I've never been there.
It's a great crowd. It's a mix of people, and it's you have to go and do it once. I would say.
And then so Greg Belfridge is, he's first of all a good friend. He's a former boss. I worked for him at Kello AM. And Greg is a hard-hitting boom, 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 and very politically oriented and so forth. And I kind of stay away from the politics. And so then Susan and Mark and I are sitting there. And Mark's been around the globe broadcasting and very, very well respected. So I did take his opinions instead of just going, whatever. Whatever Mark said is like, okay, I'm going to listen, if nothing else. He says, you and Greg aren't any different. I'm like, what? He says, you both get out of your guests what you want. Says it's just that when they finished talking to you, they want to hug you. Yeah. When they finish talking to Greg, they want to punch him. And so I remember that. Part of it as well. It's funny when you bring that up is that, I still get things out of people without having to be hard-hitting.
Yeah. Right.
I get them to open up, and I've had some amazing conversations on this show with people.
Oh, yeah. And that's about just lasting impact, and that's probably why you keep going. That's why you're
exactly. Yeah.
That's why you're at 250.
Yes.
Well, and the thing is, in the 250 episodes, we've had over 350 individual guests.
Wow.
There have been a lot that have come back from time to time. Your cohort, John Gaskins.
Oh, yeah.
He leads the pack.
Yeah.
Because he will just simply call up and say, hey, Dave, any chance we can talk about Canaries baseball?
Oh, yeah. He does that to me, too, Dave.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about Canaries, Baylee, on the 9 a.m.?
Yeah, he's a good friend. Oh, and I got another one down there that is awesome. Mo Hurley.
Oh, we love Mo Hurley.
Who
we miss
doesn't?
her. We miss her.
Yeah.
You miss her?
She's not with our team anymore.
Not anymore.
I know.
A couple of weeks ago.
We missed her, but she's great, and she's doing so many great things.
She
now.
really
Oh,
is.
she does.
Yes.
Amazing. I just get such a kick out of it.
And she's in the entertainment industry.
Yes, she is.
Oh, she is. Just
what I love about
fun.
Mo is, she's and just this nice, sweet,
right, very quaint.
Very much so. But she can act like hell.
Oh, I know. She is an actress. Oh, it's so cool to see her come out of her shell. For
yes,
that. Like it is
and,
so fitting.
I was in a play that she wrote the first year they did the premieres.
Yes.
Yeah, I was in that cast.
I was going to also mention, you do so many other things other than just
your
podcast.
Exactly.
Talk about all of the things you do.
Okay.
Bodies, I mean.
Yeah, we've got the Vaudies, the variety show that we do 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. And technically it is within the quarter, but it might be at the very end of a quarter or the very beginning of one. And so that's fun. And, that's another one that doesn't make a lot of money. But between that and this, it spurs the income of everything else that I do.
Yeah.
And that does include, the variety entertainment I do outside of Vaudies, which also includes hosting another podcast, the Midtown Coffee Radio Hour. And then also I am part of the lovely Late Night Boomin', where I'm a strange character that... he's crotchety. Yeah, and he's in a wheelchair. Now, eventually, I probably will be in a wheelchair, but the crotchety part is definitely not typecasting for me.
It's method acting,
that's
really.
not me. Yes, it is method acting. But I love playing that part, and it's such a fun thing to be associated with. Oh, and then let's see, what else is there?
Right?
And for a while I was actually a professional clown even.
What?
Yes.
Like at the birthdays, or what do you mean? Where?
Yeah,
where were
I
you
did.
a
I did
professional?
birthdays. I even had a one-man clown show for a 45-minute stage show. All sorts of stuff.
Can you do the balloon tricks? Balloon animals?
Yes, I can. I
you
don't
juggle?
anymore. I was decent at juggling.
Okay.
We gotta bring this back.
Yeah.
Aaron Dowdna claims he can juggle, but I don't know.
I don't doubt if Doodah could.
Yeah.
I think we need a little competition going.
Yeah, there you go. I guess talk about also just kind of, through all of the things you do and being kind of in that arts and entertainment, how do you think it gives you such a perspective when interviewing other people in the arts and entertainment industry here?
Creativity. Mm-hmm. I mentioned the part about, asking stupid questions. That really applies to everything in art as well. You're going to try different things, some of which will not work. Mm-hmm. When you talk to the actors, they will talk about directors that allow them to try something, or will even suggest give me something different, and so forth. And then the director may still go back to what they originally wanted, but at least there's the opportunity. And I think what I really love is the fact that now the word that is used in the arts and entertainment industry is creator. Mm-hmm. So I consider myself a creator. Yeah. And no matter if you're a visual artist, a photographer, you're an executive director of something in the arts, you're a technical director. The technical people don't get enough raves because they do amazing stuff, especially if you're going to like a premier playhouse production. I know that one time, because we always sit right in front of the sound and light boards. Yeah. And so we get to hear a lot of the things going on, for one thing, but we also know half the people that are working the boards. And I remember one time Kevin Wintering had told me, he said, he says, normally, there's about 400 cues in the show. He says, this one has over 600 in it. Oh, wow. And boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
and,
back to back to back.
Yeah, and so they don't get enough respect. And then I think the other thing that I like to make sure that the general public knows about arts and entertainment, first of all, it would be surprising to most how many people in the Sioux Falls metro area make their living in the arts. Mm-hmm. Secondly, how many people make a pretty good chunk of their living because they don't get paid enough in their regular job to be able to do everything they would like to do. And then, it's just so great, because here's an example that I give so often is maybe I'm outside on a Friday night downtown, and somebody, just a single person, is playing guitar. And they'll ask me, so what do you think you're getting paid tonight? So, well, first of all, none of my business and none of your business either.
Yeah.
I do have an idea because I talk to people. So I'd probably be able to guess close. But I said, here's the deal. I said, okay, you see that bag over there that he got his guitar out of, that case? Right there is probably at least 75, probably more, along the lines of 100. And then he's got a microphone stand. Yeah, those things are not as cheap as you think.
No.
He's got an amplifier, and he plugs his guitar into that amplifier via a cord, and he's got the mic cord and the mic and all that. So that tallies up quickly. Yeah. Then take into consideration how many years and hours of practice this person has put into lessons to make you a happy person tonight.
Yeah.
And they forget all about that. And so I love pushing that. And I just love pushing the fact that we have so much coming up, too. Yeah. Growing up in Rock Rapids, when I turned 16 and could actually drive a date up here to go to the Sioux Falls, the State Theater.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's where my first date was. Oh. And I've got a great story about getting up here first, which we'll come back to in a little bit. But at that time, Sioux Falls was 68,000 people. And now it's over 210,000 people. Yeah. And so we've grown in so many ways. But back then, if you were coming up to take in the arts, basically you were going to go to a movie theater. They had community theater, but it wasn't really publicized outside of Sioux Falls, so not a lot of people knew that way. Or maybe once a year you went to the symphony, and it was probably going to be the Christmas one.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's about it that you would do. And now, my goodness gracious, besides the community theater, besides the movie theaters, you've got the sculpture walk downtown. You've got the Washington Pavilion that major shows come into, and great local shows are there. And you have Mighty Corson Art Players. You have down in Worthing, you've got Old Town Dinner Theater. You've got Monstrous Little Theater. Yep. You've got Good Night Theater Collective. And let's see, Nancy Tapkin just started one as well. Yep. And then there's, people like me, the Vaudies. Yep. And all these different shows, Midtown Coffee Radio Hour, and there's several other local podcasts. Local Lou, who is with you every Thursday, and absolutely one of my favorite people. Yes, I love just cool. And so there's all of that, and we haven't even reached the apex yet. And, the opportunity now that people have, they've done shows inside the coffee place at Full Circle Book Co-op. They have street performers. Yeah. There's lots of art hanging in different coffee shops throughout town. Yeah. And there's just so much opportunity now for everybody. And the other thing that I always like to push is, in this community, arts and entertainment is all about collaboration, not competition. And, you talk, especially if you talk to the comics, when they've gone down to Omaha or on out to Denver, Kansas City, Twin Cities, Des Moines, wherever, they will tell you about those people being cutthroat.
Oh, really?
I've heard that.
And it's very intense that way. But around here, they'll get together and they'll write jokes together, and they'll say, hey, what if you took the punchline and put it over here?
Yeah.
Or what if you started off with that and then you built on it and then came back with a callback in it? And, all these different conversations that go on. And, another great story I love to talk about, Ruben Rodriguez, who plays bass. And just this happy-go-lucky guy. And just recently found out the man can sing, too. My goodness. But so we started first off going down to Our Wine Bar when they would have jazz nights. And so it was somebody's trio. And we're down there watching it. Yeah, these guys are good, And, oh, man, that bass player. Look at him. He's just the happiest guy plunking away and so forth. And then the next week, it's somebody else's trio. Well, here's that same guy plunking away and just happy as can be. Then finally, the third week, it's the Ruben Rodriguez trio. So he's in three different things. Oh, he's in more than that. But just, the way that they all can intermix. And I'm a huge jazz lover anyway. And so very, very happy now that we have trio.
Yes.
What a place.
I've been meaning to stop by.
Oh, you need to instead of just walk by.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you got to get dinner too, Dave. Sometimes you got to go to Maribella's.
Exactly, yeah.
There you go.
And so it's just been great to see how there is so much. The venues, the different companies and people producing and creating and doing it together.
That's my favorite part about Sioux Falls, too. Because even, I'm from a small town growing up. Oh, yeah. I mean, even Brookings was kind of a small town for college. But, being in Sioux Falls, there is just so much to do. It's endless, opportunities for new businesses, for new entertainment, for... you can just pick a day and there's something going on, whether it's trivia or bingo or whatever.
Well, I host trivia too.
Yeah, okay, well, all right,
Monday nights at Chasers.
There you go.
7 o'clock. And gosh, what was I going to say about that? Oh, yeah. And try to organize an event.
Yeah.
And find a date that's perfect.
Good luck.
No, I tell people, I say, just get out the calendar of the year, get out a dart, close your eyes and throw the dart and see where it lands. Oh, that's the date we're doing this.
Yeah. There's never going to be a perfect time.
Right. No. Because you're going to be up against Good Night or, going to be up against the Playhouse. Oh, my goodness. And then, Rainbow Chorus now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, right?
We've got so much diversity and inclusivity.
And you jump right into that. And I think that is so... I admire that about you, Dave, is that you're so willing to try all these new things and do this podcast. You're not, that scared, that failure. I think that's such an important lesson too for, listeners to if you have any message for listeners out there of start the podcast, do this, try new things, evolve with the times. I think that's so cool.
Well, and here I am going to turn 62 in a few months and it's still got all these other things ahead of me yet. Yeah. So it's a blast,
plunge.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way, most of it's secretive, but tonight there is a party at Dakota Military Alliance.
Oh, yeah?
From 6 until 10 p.m. to celebrate Anniversary 5 and episode number 250.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There you go.
So if you wish to come, we'll have free cake, and then they've got a full bar and a full restaurant there.
Sounds like a great time. The Alliance is a great place. So.
Yes, it is. It works well for us. Plus, they were much less expensive than everybody else.
Yeah, right. Well, Dave, is there anything else that you kind of have for your listeners?
Yeah.
Just, being on such a milestone. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
and just a great time to sit down with you two again.
Yeah.
And, of course, you'll see me again in November when we have another Vaughty show coming up. So we'll be back in the studio. And, Lexie, I can't remember whether when you were here as a guest I mentioned it, but you had been working at Dakota News Now for maybe just a couple of weeks. And I'm always interested in how new talent's going to do, how they're going to fit in, and so forth.
I started out a little rough. Sorry,
well,
buddy.
We all do.
I thought you were great.
And so then I think it was about the second week or something, I said, you get the award for the most improved in the shortest amount of time.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Yeah.
You should tell my bosses that.
I really should.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop you.
Tell them how great we are.
Yeah.
Well, that I already know.
Well, thank you so much.
Big watchers of both of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
and-
Always a pleasure having you on, Dave. And I learned something new about you, I swear, every time. I think the first time you had ever reached out to have you on the 9 a.m., I'm like, oh, okay, so bodies, okay. Wait, now he wants to promote this. Wait, is this guy just doing everything? Like, I think I was literally out loud like, is this Dave Hawley? I think I talked to Aaron. Is this the same Dave Hawley, Aaron? Oh, yeah, he just does everything.
Yeah.
And I think that is
Well,
like
and
the biggest thing.
Sarah Manson told me that the last time we were there to promote Bodies, that you had asked her then after some initial emails that she had with, well, who are you bringing with you? Well, Dave Hawley. Oh, okay.
Well, no, she said like your title, your name, and I'm like, oh, Sarah, I know Dave. I got the title memorized. I got Dave is doing a lot in this community, and we appreciate that too. With what we do, seeing people, making things happen in this community is just so special.
Yeah, that it is, and you two do the same thing day in and day out, and it's greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for being my guest co-host.
Yes, and we got to interview you, which is awesome.
I
too.
love it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
And congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll be back to wrap up the Dave Hawley Hour in just a moment.
Comedy magician and hypnotist Jesse Moffat's right. He can't play the piano, but he can sure entertain crowds with his amazing magic and clever quips. His shows always make the participants the stars, especially when they've fallen asleep on stage. They've been hypnotized. Are you the party planner in your group? Then you owe it to your group to make the event magical, even if it puts you to sleep. Here's how.
For booking information, go to Jesse Moffat Entertainment on Facebook. That's JESSEMOFFITT. Or call 605-929-0964.
Ladies, when it's time to give your nails some love, get that extra special treatment from Quality Nails on South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls. Manicures and pedicures that look great and make you feel fantastic. Zaya and Tony provide professional care for your hands and feet, whether you just want the basics or an extra special look with added flair. Oh, and guys, it's okay to treat yourself too. Quality Nails. Call for an appointment. 605-334-1463.
Time for more arts and entertainment talk on the Dave Hawley Hour.
Thanks again to those great co-hosts, Baylee Peterson and Lexie Merley. Thank you, longtime listeners. I know some that have heard every one of these 250 episodes, as well as those of you checking us out for the first time. Downloads, likes, shares, they all make a difference. Never miss an episode. All 250 available online, DaveHawleyHour.com. Don't forget to use the search function for previous guests and topics. Next week, episode 251, that's going to start our 6th year. So please join us. Until then, as the Sioux Falls Arts Council says, together we art. As Arts South Dakota says, home is where the art is. As I say, put some art in your heart. Remember, my name is Dave Hawley, and for me, every day is a holiday.
The Dave Hawley Hour has been brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffat's Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. If you would like to contribute to the continued success of this podcast, simply buy Dave a cup of coffee. Go to DaveHawleyHour.com and click on the coffee cup icon. Don't forget to stay up to date on the show by following on Instagram and Facebook. The Dave Hawley Hour is produced in the Dipsy Doodle Studios by Big D Entertainment.
Thanks for listening.